All right. Good morning, everyone. Matt Braden here from the GPAR team. Happy Monday. Gray Monday after a terrible Eagles defeat. Yeah, that was a little bit tough. Tough loss in Sin City yesterday. Before we get started with today's coffee talk, just a couple of things. I want to remind everybody about this Thursday, 9 o'clock. We are going to have a great workshop about scary home inspections. So Bill Dare will be joining us from Spotlight Home Inspections LLC to do another one of his great presentations. He's been on with us 2 or 3 times in the last year and a half. They've been dynamite. Encourage you guys all to tune in for that. And keep your eye on your inbox. We have some other folks lined up for President Stephanie with Coffee Talk. So there's going to be some pretty cool things happening, both from the political side of things, as well as from the National Association of Realtors. So lots of good things in the hopper coming up. And then also too, reflecting back onto last week, in case if you missed it, we had a dynamite workshop with Trent Pettis on Friday about the agreement of sale. The link went out to everybody. If you missed it, to catch the video, it's on our YouTube channel, of which all of our past presentations are there. I encourage you all to go ahead and check those videos out. Great nuggets to help out your business, to figure out what's going on here in Philadelphia, including the one we just had with Councilman Alan Dom. Great update there about what's happening in the city of Philadelphia. So with that, I want to say good morning to our president, President Stephanie. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Coffee Talk. We have PAR President Chris Raad with us today. So we're going to talk a little bit about Chris, the impact leadership has had on his business and his personal life. Also some priorities for PAR, what went on in 2021, what's ahead, and talk a little bit about RPAC too. So with that, good morning, Chris. How are you?
Good morning, Stephanie. How are you this morning?
Thank you for joining us. So how is everything going on with you this past year as PAR president?
It's been an interesting year, to say the least. And I actually posted some pictures from last week. It was nice getting to see my good friend, Bill Festa. You know, he and I had both had some challenging years over 2020 and 2021, not your typical presidential years that you would have. But, you know, despite all the challenges, I think we've come out of what will hopefully be on the other side of this, I think, stronger, and I think probably more united than we've ever been as an association. We've been able to do some good programming, and you know, I'm a boots on the ground agent. I'm a selling broker. I have a small office up in Allentown, so I'm a couple miles up the turnpike here from you all, and you know, I see what we all go through on a daily basis, and you know, I have a lot of respect for that. And I know you know, I've got a lot of different hats that I'm wearing alongside of the PAR hat. I'm also involved a little bit at the local level with my local board, not so much this past 2 years, but outside of that, I have a 1.5-year-old that's running around and pretty much running my house, I guess you could say. You know, but my wife's also a realtor in the Lancaster area, and you know, we don't let a whole lot of grass grow under our feet here.
Oh, well, I know you've been busy this past year as president. Is there anything you want to tell us? Let me introduce you to some of our people who may have just joined us. But so you've always been in real estate, and this has always been your career path. Was there anything else in your path that you?
I can honestly say that there was never another career path that I had chosen. You know, for my Stephanie, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, can you hear me? Okay,
I can hear you.
Sorry
You're good.
That must be the Allentown Wi-Fi connection here. I apologize.
No problem.
So yeah, so I actually grew up in the real estate business. My grandfather was a broker. My father was a broker. I grew up going on listing appointments and really showing houses when I was a kid. There was never really much of a different career path that I had considered, to be honest with you. I knew what I wanted to do primarily since I was very young. And, I feel pretty fortunate about that. And I think seeing the difference that my father and my grandfather were able to make in people's lives had a true impact on me as a younger, really as a kid, just to see people be able to achieve that dream of home ownership. And really at the time, not even knowing what that exactly was, but seeing people be able to be so happy on the day that they were able to buy a house, their first house, or whatever it was, just to see them be able to do that had a profound impact on me from the time that I was very, very young. And there was kind of a joke there that I went into kindergarten or first grade on the, what are you going to do when you grow up? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to be a realtor. I don't even know what the heck that means, but it's definitely I believe it's definitely the best industry to be involved in. I mean, there's no other industry that does things the way that we do it. I mean, think about how our industry works. We're all in a competitive business, working for different offices, but we have to cooperate on a daily basis. There's no other industry that really does this, just like our real estate industry does. And our community is, we have 38,000 realtors across the state. And how many are down in Philly? Probably about 3,000 or so. There's about 2,600 up in the Lehigh Valley here. I mean, you think about how small that community actually is when it boils down to. I mean, we really are a unique industry as a whole. And, that was something that really stuck out to me and stood out to me when I was very young, just seeing the camaraderie that there is between different realtors and brokers and your clients and title key people and mortgage people and the different services that all go along with it. I think there's nothing more exciting and more profound of an impact that we all can make on our clients each and every day when we're helping them into buying or selling, their properties or their commercial properties or their rentals or whatever it might be. We really have an impact in our communities in that form.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of impact, so your path to leadership, I know you said you're still very involved on the local level, and I'm sure it started out locally. How has that impacted your business?
So I got onto my local board at a time when our board was in a little bit of some flux, and we had 5 spaces available, and I was the 5th guy that got tapped. And literally, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. It was, come to a meeting, you'll do this once or twice a month, and you can have some coffee and breakfast maybe. Well, not realizing everything else that would have be coming down the pike there. That was in like 2010, 2009. And just seeing where the association world has gone, where our business has gone, all the changes. I mean, we do business so much differently than we had back then. I mean, going through, I've been licensed since 1999. I got my broker's license in 2004, 2005. I mean, we do business substantially different to the way it was done back then. And there's some good, some bad with that. I don't really want to go back to handwriting the agreements on carbon copy forms here like we used to do, but I think there's a lot of positives that you can gain out of that. So my leadership journey kind of started then. I was involved in a lot of different local issues. I got involved at PAR and became a board of director, got to serve on a few different committees, got to meet some really influential people that kind of had an impact on me. I got tapped and I actually chaired the Commercial Industrial Investment Committee for 2 years. And that was kind of my pathway into leadership, where I just kind of thought, I really want to stick around and I want to be involved at the state level. So I decided to run for treasurer. I think prior to doing that, for anybody who's interested in taking any kind of local leadership or state leadership, is just having your business in order and having as much flexibility as you can possibly give to it there. And I think one of the best things that I've learned, though, through my leadership path here, and I learned this when I became president-elect and president back in 2014, was just the importance of time management that we all have to have for ourselves. I was one of these agents that ran through the brick wall 24/7. You couldn't get me to stop for coffee at 9 a.m. if I had another appointment, and I probably had 2 of them lined up at the same time. So that was always how I ran my business, watching other, and I'm not really watching my father so much, but watching other agents and watching other business professionals that I had worked with, it's just how they did things. So realizing that I have to now have these items into my agenda and into my schedule, these things that are going to help the association progress and do these different things. And I started sticking these things into my schedule, and that was kind of eye-opening. And then luckily enough, I met my wife, Gretchen, who we met actually at PAR meetings before that. But when we first started chatting, it was kind of like, I think I want to take a weekend off once in a while, or maybe I want to take a vacation. And she was saying the same things because she also was doing the same things that I did, things that you thought you had to do to stay successful in the business. And, lo and behold, saying no to a client every so often isn't the worst thing that can happen. Or saying, I can't meet you in the next hour, but I can meet you there later at 5 o'clock, or I can meet you there tomorrow morning, or, having your own schedule and your own set schedule and time periods that you have set up for you is important. And I think having those barriers is healthy for your own personal relationships. It's healthy for your family. I mean, let's be honest, we have a lot of, well, maybe not you, Stephanie, but I have a lot of crazy clients. And if they're watching this, I apologize to some of them, but I have a lot of crazy clients that I work with who, I mean, it's just, we deal with a lot of interesting personalities, and that gets brought home to our families a lot of the time. So trying to keep that, trying to keep a smile on your face. I always used to say that when I would do new member orientation talks, trying to have as much fun in this business is probably going to be the best benefit to anything that you can do moving forward. That, and really trying to just remain respected by your peers in the business, because as I said before, our real estate industry is pretty much a tight group there. I mean, you know a lot of the people in your marketplace. So trying to stay respected by your peers, and that's something that I've always tried to do. And I think I saw this somewhere else where it was, strive to be the agent that you would want to do a deal with. And I think that's something that we can all take into consideration or look to do moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, time management is key, and value your time. I think a lot of times in this business, we tend to take things personally, and we can't separate personal from business. And once you start shifting over to that business and you have a schedule, you're sticking to the schedule, it becomes easier to say, no, I can't meet you. How about later today or tomorrow? So then it becomes business, because if you think about it, any other business, who does that? Drops everything, So.
You're exactly right. And I've really kind of parlayed that into continuing that with my journey through PAR, is building that local calendar that I had. It was, I really had, I think, a year between where I didn't have a treasurer role. So running that into the next PAR calendar, I just kind of kept that thing moving. So I think it's important, like you just said, keeping that time management is going to keep more of a smile on all of our faces than
Right.
what we can do. Yeah.
Right. And we're winding down to the end of the year. And I know at PAR, we're working on strategic plan. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that, but also for agents, this is a good time. It starts to slow down a little bit, maybe for some, or it might ramp up before the end of the year, but to take a look at your own business plan. And part of that, obviously part of your personal business plan would be the leadership. And how when you work with clients and they hear they're working with the president of PAR, how do some of your past clients who knew you, way back when up to now, like how do your clients feel?
I think some of them don't care at all, to be honest with you.
Right.
But I think some of them I think a lot of them, and I think a lot of realtors, just staying involved in your association just gives you so much more knowledge that you have coming back on what's happening in the industry and the trends. So I think maybe one of the benefits that I've been able to provide, especially over the last 2 years, was, hey, this is happening right now. I was able to kind of be part of what was happening with how we were proceeding through the pandemic and how we were proceeding through all these different crazy times that were not the norm. So I think aside of that, I think some of my clients kind of thought it was cool. I got messages from some of my older clients that were excited from years ago when I was involved locally. And I think the bigger thing is that many of the agents and many people just think that this is now my full-time job, and that's the farthest thing from the truth. I wish there was a great salary that went along with this, and you would make more than I would, Stephanie. But it would be nice for that. But that's not the reason that we do this. I really have a strong passion for wanting to see our association and for our industry grow. And I think that the more that we can impact the lives and help try to make our realtors successful and stay in the business, I think that is a win for all of our local associations. And as part of leadership, the more that we can get more people involved. And I was so thrilled. And I had this at the local level a couple of years ago where we had, I think we had like 250 people come out for committee selections, which at the time was an astronomical number. I was so thrilled to see that. And I thought, leadership team, we had an impact on how that was perceived and people wanting to be involved. I also felt pretty good over the last 2 years. They just did surveys that came out, and we had over 2,100 surveys that came back to PAR from across the state. I mean, you might look at that and say, oh, well, it was 38,000 members, 2,100 doesn't sound like that great. But if you really look at it, how many of our active full-time members, engaged members are paying attention? And I think, if we can cut that down, I mean, I really think that we're reaching a lot of folks who want to be involved and who have interest in what PAR is doing. And I think that that's an important thing, that the engagement part that I know you have done. I know GPAR has done a fantastic job with venues like this and a lot of your outreach that you've done. These are just things that I think finding out how we can morph this into getting more people involved, more people engaged, and more information out to everyone.
Yeah, I agree. I think the more people we can reach, it helps us create the plan going forward, because we're hearing what they need instead of like what you said, with some of the other members, get out of my way so I can go do my business. Well, we want to help. So I think for anybody who wants to get involved, I think, like you said, knowing what's going on in our industry and kind of having a foothold on what's coming down the pipe, kind of gives you an advantage. And, the clients like knowing that, and it gives you confidence too, knowing what you're doing. So speaking of that, do you want to talk about any of the priorities for PAR? Maybe we'll talk about ZipForm and how that came about.
Yeah, definitely. So as many of us know, NAR decided not to fund the ZipForm programs throughout the country as part of their budgeting process moving forward into 2022. And early on this past year, we had just thought as a leadership team that this was too important of a topic to just let go. So we did create a task force that had looked into the whole program. And what we found out was that over 80% of our membership uses ZipForms from across the state. So we just felt that this was too important of a member benefit for us to just let slide from NAR. So this was something that was put through the task force. There was a lot of different questions and budgeting purposes that we went through the finance committee. And I'm happy to say that this was approved for the next 2 years, that will have ZipForms for free for many of our members. We're still working out the final details of that. So if anyone had received any notices from ZipForms that they were being canceled, or there was a certain contract that was being negotiated yet, we're not sure exactly where that all came from, but we are working out the final details of the contract, which we'll be disseminating out to everybody as soon as possible. It'll probably be over the next month or two until that's complete, probably the next month. But we just thought that this was an important thing that impacts so many of our membership. And aside from ZipForms, just the ancillary products that also includes with the DocuSign and digital ink features and all of that, we just thought that these were programs that we thought were too important for us to lose out on. So we're excited to see that come through. We also made part of the budget, an investment in different technology. I think we can all agree that these virtual meetings are not going anywhere anytime soon. So I think the better that we can do them, the more maybe training that we can do to help people chair these different types of venues and maybe speak at these types of venues, because it is a little different than actually getting up on a stage in front of a bunch of people. I learned that a few weeks ago when we were at the PAR business meetings in Harrisburg when it was live. I was used to sitting in front of my computer here, and sitting on stage was a little different for me since it's the first time that happened in, 18 months or so. So I think some of those technology things that we can work on as an association and help the local associations do that in the future, I think are going to be really important to us moving forward. Aside of that, we have the PAR Legal Hotline continues to be a huge resource for our members. You'd be amazed how many states don't have any programs like that. And I'm really happy to see that this has come in-house and we've been able to expand the services that were provided from the past. I really think that seeing this go from a more of a 7 to 8 hour day for our staff attorneys to be able to answer questions and get information out is pretty incredible. I think they field about 40 calls a day is what it is. I do hear some stories that I know Hank Lerner has said, and some of the other attorneys have said during their presentations there, that they do have repeat callers that call pretty often. That makes me a little nervous, to be honest with you. I think that Stephanie, as I'm sure you have, we have our attorneys that are that we have that are pretty much on call for anything that I would need or you would probably need. That the PAR attorneys are not your in-house legal attorneys, but if you need some guidance on where to go with a question, it's a really quick way to get that done. And I think that's a big bonus to our membership there.
I agree. I mean, the hotline's great. And Hank just did, I think a couple weeks ago, he had scary stories. It was his Halloween feature, the scary stories he hears on the legal hotline. And I think you can see it when you go on the PAR website and go into the just listed. I think maybe would that be, or on the blog somewhere, but
it'll be on the PARealtor.org site. Yeah, right. So it'll definitely be on there. And I'd be interested to seeing what your presentation you have coming up, looking at it from a home inspection side. I'm sure that's going to be pretty entertaining as well. I feel like I'm living that right now with 2 other properties that I have under agreement. So
it's crazy, and I think it's getting challenging. I don't know I guess everywhere, but contractors and trying to get work done and how that's affecting deals and closing them, and having post-closing agreements for repairs or whatever. It's becoming a challenge. So hopefully things start to pick up a little bit next year for spring market. So
anyway. I agree.
All right. Yeah. So anything else you want to talk about that's going on at PAR? Anything over the past year?
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited and happy to see that some of the pieces of legislation that we've been tracking and following have been getting a lot of traction. We actually had our private roadway maintenance agreement bill that we've been working on for a few years. That actually was signed into law by the governor. That may not be a huge deal for anybody down in Philly, but I can tell you when I get into the central and northern and western part of the states where you've got a road, a private driveway that would be shared with a neighbor, this is a huge deal for many of them because it impacts your financing on that. And many of the federally backed mortgages will not actually be able to provide financing products for anything that doesn't have a maintenance agreement in place. So this legislation now creates that gap there that will now allow you to get financing in lieu of that roadway maintenance agreement not being in place. So that was pretty exciting to see that get done. We're also working on the virtual learning bill, which would be amending the RELRA regulations. This is a big deal for all of us because I can see as with all the schools that we have across the state, and I sit in on the real estate commission calls every month, and we've had a lot of the schools that have been on those calls looking for guidance of where the whole virtual capacity is going to be going. And that was something that was extended by the governor to, I believe, March or April of next year. But I think we can all identify that, our virtual learning is not going anywhere. I think there's a tremendous amount of our students, and whether you're taking CE or licensing classes, that people want to do this by Zoom or do it virtually. So I think having a permanent solution to that is important, and that's what we are currently working on right now. We'll hopefully see this come to fruition over the next few weeks. And I was also pretty excited to see that our first-time homebuyer savings account bill was passed out of the Senate, and it's over in the House right now, ready to go into committee. So we're seeing some traction on that. You know, it's been something that we've been working on since about 2018. And I think we had some traction building on that before the pandemic, but a lot of the legislators were kind of afraid to push this forward because they perceived a budgetary impact on this. As far as the savings account program, that would be a bit of a tax savings to anyone putting money into the account, where I think it's kind of short-sighted on that front, where we can all identify that when you buy a house, you know, you're now paying different contractors to come out. You're going to the hardware stores. You're doing all these different ancillary things that are benefiting the economy, rather than just a few cents on the dollar that someone's being able to save as a tax benefit. I don't really look at this as so much of a tax shelter as much of it is that we can help many first-time home buyers get into the housing market by being able to save money and having that money come directly out of their paychecks and put into a designated account that will help them buy a house. And, you know, I'm not really thinking that this is going to be something that they're going to be able to put, you know, tens of thousands of dollars on. But if we can get somebody to save $5,000-$6,000, where now maybe they don't have to ask for a seller assist, that's a huge win. And that's going to make their offer look so much better when it's in the competing circumstance that we're all going through right now. So I'm excited, and I hope that this program really gets through. We're going to be continuing to monitor this and really push this. I know that was happy to see that the Senate picked this up and push this over, and we're hoping that this can get pushed through with the House and signed by the governor. So it's exciting to see 3 different bills that we have all kind of gaining some traction in the same few months. So we're hoping that all these things can get to the finish line before the end of the year.
Yeah, I hope so too, especially the virtual learning. I think that was a long time coming for our industry. You know, so hopefully, I didn't realize that needed to go through a bill to become, I guess, legal or regulatory. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, I think that's a win-win for everybody. Maybe not for the kids in school.
I'll be honest, I don't know that they really knew what the whole process was, because when I was on the one call, it was kind of, I think the Real Estate Commission thought that they may have a little more authority to just enact this, and that was definitely not the case. So we sprung into action pretty quickly on this to try to get this done. I mean, we were trying to get this done because at that time we were under the gun because the governor hadn't extended that order past the September 30th deadline. So which then he did extend, but you know, we were kind of left, our schools were left in limbo. And I heard from quite a few of them that they weren't sure what was going to happen. If you were in the middle of a class, were you going to be able to continue that class after September 30th? So that was a really big deal for many of our schools across the state.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. You could be in the middle of continuing ed or your ethics.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how does
licensing.
That look? Yeah. So how does that look? I mean, like that it's going to pass. I believe. Is there any holdup? What would be the holdup?
I don't see it. It's pretty bipartisan and easy, you know, moving forward. I think we're just waiting for it to get through committee and get through, get to the Senate side to get to the governor's desk. But I feel pretty good that that's going to get through. So I think the only thing that I'd hate to see is just for it to lose some momentum, just since that was extended to next year. Not that some of our legislators don't see this as an important thing, because it really is to all of us.
Yeah, and I'm anxious to see the first-time home buyer program come into effect, which is similar to the 529, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So
very
that'll
similar
be good.
to that. And it's not a huge budgetary impact. I mean, if you're putting money into a college account, I mean, you're not seeing a huge windfall of tax benefits to that. And I know when I talked to my local senator, who was actually head of appropriations, he's an accountant. He did the math real quick in his head and just said, I don't see a problem with this. He's like, you're talking about a couple cents on the dollar for this. It's not a huge impact, but I think, in my opinion, I think probably, what you would say is this is a huge deal for many folks who don't know how to save money. And I know, and I think that's a huge thing for many folks who can have this dedicated to have a couple dollars go to this account, and there's going to be a slight tax savings that they're going to see. But once they're into that house, that's going to really open them up to the market, and it's really just going to help benefit the whole economy in general.
Yeah, I agree. And I can speak because I have adult children and they do not save. They do not save. Well, some of them do, some better than others, but yeah, I think it's great. And it just sucks it away and they don't see it. And it doesn't have to be a big chunk of it. It's kind of like an IRA or a 401k, just put some money aside, and when you need it, it's there. And if it's a couple $1,000s, it's a couple $1,000s more than you did have. So I think it's all good. Okay, anything else? What do you want to talk about? Some objectives for coming up?
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited. We just got done with the strategic planning session, which was last week, and it was great that GPAR had quite a few individuals represented on there. I know Steph, you were there, and Matt Braden was there, Annette Collier, and of course your first Vice President Al Perry, and my good friend past President Bill Festa as well. So GPAR was represented very well, and I think we tried to get a lot of different perspectives from around the state. And I think we were pretty successful in that. I think we had a lot of good ideas, a lot of good brainstorming sessions for where we want to go and how we want to get things accomplished and what we want to do as far as how we're interacting with members, what content, what different ideas we want to be pushing out to them, and just identifying what will help benefit our local associations and our membership moving forward. And I'm excited to see this come to fruition. I know that we're waiting for the facilitator that handled the planning session to get back to us with some of that. But there's a lot more work to be done with that. But I'm excited to see where this goes and really how this all turns out.
Yeah, I do too. I think it was, I've worked on a lot of strategic plans on the association level and on business levels, and working with agents on business planning. And it was a great session. The facilitator Paul was wonderful. So really good, really excited. And I think the timing was good too, because there were a lot of things that the pandemic kind of just opened up for us that might have been kind of in the background, and we didn't quite know how to incorporate that into our plan. But the pandemic kind of forced us to do, for example, virtual learning and member outreach. So I think moving forward, the timing was great. So we took all those experiences and we incorporated it into the strategic plan. So it was awesome. Yeah,
I agree. And I really think that because we actually extended our previous strat plan for 2021, which I think was a really good move for us to do, because, we would have been doing this, it would have been all by Zoom, and it would have been much tougher. So us being able to be in a room, and I think us being able to kind of come up with ideas and see these ideas on the board. And, I too have been involved in quite a few other strategic plans on a couple of other boards, and even at PAR previously. And, I think the frustrating thing is to see all these different ideas come up, have them put out there, and then just see them pushed in the corner. And I can honestly say that none of that happened with our facilitator. He really kept, he was really a free flow, free thinking, put these things on the board and let's see where this all goes. So I think we really hit some of those high points on there for how we can progress.
Yeah, I think so too. Anything you want to share with the group, or
I'm excited to see some of our,
keeping it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see some of our member outreach kind of go out. And also, this was also budgeted previously, but we have a consumer campaign that's going to be coming up as well, moving forward into next year. And for those who haven't seen it, we did change the logo just in the past few weeks. And for just some background on that, we went through some association services task forces a couple of years ago. I think that was in like 2019, and there was some talks about possibly changing the name and dropping the association part out of it, and that ended up not happening. However, through these task forces and consumer groups that we were asking for input from, we found out that most people did not like our previous logo. So it wasn't too radically different. It was just the keystone with some different shapes in it. But I think where we're at now with this current logo that we have, I think is a little more encompassing. It has the keyhole in the middle, and I think it's a little more modern and kind of gives some updated, flair to what we're trying to accomplish moving forward. And, I think just with the staff and some of our member outreach and consumer outreach that we're going to see coming forward is just going to be a little more about agent centric, about why using a realtor is so important and the things that all of our consumers are looking for daily. So I think the more we can keep more of that boots on the ground kind of mentality in some of those aspects is definitely important to all of us.
Agree. Okay, so a few weeks ago, maybe last month, we had our business meetings finally in person after 18 months. And it was great. So we also have the NAR conference coming up. That's coming up next month. And then we also have Triple Play, which is, you want to talk a little bit about Triple Play? And
yeah, so we're full steam ahead here as of right now, unless something happens in New Jersey that we all don't know about. We're going to be in person. We will have a continued slate of classes that are going to be coming up here. I think there's still some the details are still being worked out. You still may be able to get in with the early bird special for registrations right now. I'm not sure where that's at, to be honest with you, but I know from the last head count we were doing pretty well, and I know Triple Play has normally been at least in the last few years of being involved in leadership. We've had a lot of our registrants have signed up within the last 2 weeks of right before this started. And I know prior to being on the leadership team, I was normally signing up the week before. So, we not that we realtors don't plan well, but sometimes we procrastinate a little bit on some of these items. But I think that we're going to have a great session, a great slate of classes and courses and different speakers coming in. And I'm excited to see where this goes. I think we're gonna knock it out of the park this year, but we're excited to see. I know just when we were actually up in New York City for a commercial conference that our NAR president Charlie Oppler had put on up in New York. It's called the C5 conference, which we thought as a leadership team was pretty important for us to attend. Just looking to see what other products and different aspects of the commercial focus we can kind of implement and try to push forward in the future. And we got some good things out of it, but we were able to meet with the New Jersey and New York leaderships, which was also part of our region too. And they're all on board with this full steam ahead as well. I know that the folks from New Jersey were, they're ready to go, and New York's kind of on board as well with that. So I'm excited. I think we're going to see a lot of this moving forward.
Good. Yeah, I know anybody who's going out to the NAR conference, I know I'll be out there. Make sure you check in with the website for uploading your vaccination card if you have it. We haven't heard anything about New Jersey with those requirements or anything. So
I think we're still, I believe that masks are going to be required through all the meetings. I'm waiting to see. I think that it was either a negative test or a Vax card is going to have to be uploaded prior to, or at least shown when you get over to the event center, and that's going to be over at the convention center that we're normally sitting at there. So none of that's going to really change a whole lot, other than there may be a little bit more on the staff level, just checking some of those things.
Right. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about RPAC. So GPAR, I believe we are having our phone-a-thon or calls today and in 2 more Mondays. So we're having it 2 times. So those are always successful. I enjoy calling people, asking for money. So, but it's an investment. I think it's important. I think RPAC is, it played a critical role in us getting back to work and advocating for our members. So what, I know it's important to us. How is it important to you and your local association and the state?
Yeah, I think, as you said, the importance of having realtor-friendly legislators, that understand the impacts of private property rights and just what we do as an industry, I think is just hugely important. And I think just seeing how it all went down through the shutdown, and trying to get as many legislators to realize why we are essential and why what we do has such an impact on our communities. So I think that end of it was just huge. And I think moving forward, RPAC can continue that. I mean, it's not a, it's bipartisan. We're not on one side or the other. We're just looking out for the realtor party and the things that are going to make home ownership stronger, make our community stronger, make all of our private property rights just be able to stand out on all of that. And I'm happy to say, I think the last thing that I saw, we were over 41% of realtors across the state that had invested in RPAC, and we're actually a little more than $790,000 across the state right now, which is incredible, especially during a year where we haven't been able to be in person, as much. So I think that's incredible. And, I know you guys do a great job. My local, does a pretty good job with some of the different things. I don't know that we do the phone-a-thon things much anymore. And, but it's great that you do that still. That's awesome. I know there's quite a few other associations that really push that. And, but I don't think that we've ever seen a bigger impact of where those RPAC dollars go than right now. And I think our legislators are seeing, or at least understanding, that what we do is not just for the sale. What we do continues well beyond that, and the community impact that we have as realtors and associations, and the things that we do, just to, as I said before, just to help folks achieve that dream of home ownership is just huge. So I think the more that we can have legislators that can understand what realtors do and the impacts that we have on our communities is just hugely important. And I think this program is going to continue to flourish over the coming years as well.
I agree. And it's also important to know that even though, you were talking about private roadways, for you and Central PA, like that might not affect Philadelphia, but somebody could get wind of it and it could affect us somehow with our alleys or something.
Sure.
I mean, like it could. So it's good to be aware of that and have the ability to see how maybe it's affecting this one right now. And maybe in some other form, it could affect another part of the state, kind of like our wholesales. The predatory home sale was a big issue, and we worked with city council and got an ordinance passed to protect private property owners and their equity in their homes. And it might not be affecting your area, but it could. And inventory is so tight, people are going to be creative, so they could go outside. Now it's harder in Philadelphia, they could be moving out. So RPAC again is those are monies used to help protect and support the association, and also just members who are interested in going into politics and becoming representatives on the state or local level. I mean, we obviously have Councilman Alan Dom, who's a member, and city council. So, yeah,
like you said, those items are just huge, and those are just a few of the things. I mean, our staff tracks hundreds of bills that affect real estate every year. So these are just a few of the things that we're tracking and monitoring right now. And like you said about the private road, the private driveway roadway maintenance agreements. I mean, this even affects and I kind of didn't realize this, but I mean, if you have a set of homes that share a driveway, this can even help you in that respect as well. So it's something that can still help throughout the state. But like you said, that's the best thing, I think, of being part of PAR. You get different perspectives on what's important to different areas of the state.
Yeah. Like what's happening here in Philadelphia could have come to a city near you.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, the wholesaling issues, and I'm having them up here in the Lehigh Valley as well. I mean, that's a real problem. I think for many folks across at least eastern part of the state. I know it's not as big of a deal when I talk to folks in the central part of the state. But I think we can all maybe identify that it's probably coming. So I know that's something that we did kind of discuss through the strategic planning sessions as well, and and trying to prioritize some of those things. But I think we're like you said, these are things that we need members to speak up about, because if this is a problem that's starting in Philadelphia, it's probably going to come out and impact, much of the rest of the state.
Right. Talking about our industry and impact, the tight inventory is, it's an issue.
Yeah.
How is it up where, you're up in the Pocono area, and I know during the pandemic, second home market was just on fire. Is it still active? Is it starting to slow down a little bit? What's going on there with the second home market?
Yeah. So what I've actually seen, I'm a little south of the Poconos, but in Allentown, okay. We're seeing just the same things that you're seeing: low inventory, high buyer demand, and you're just seeing that nonstop right now. I know up in the Poconos, I know just because I was just speaking with another agent from up there. They're seeing the same things, and there's such a demand for these second homes. The market is just so huge right now, and there's just not enough inventory that's coming onto the market. So when something does hit, it's coming, it's going to get a lot of attention very quickly, and that's some of the things I know with, some of the just listed articles that we've tried to put out there. And I know some of the other informational pieces, and anytime I get interviewed, just us, we as professionals have to be able to guide our sellers along and knowing what's about to happen once that sign goes into the ground or once that listing hits the internet. And we've got to be able to provide them that knowledge and know that, hey, once this hits live, we've got to be prepared, and you have to be prepared for what's about to happen next, which could be an offer that wants you to move out in 3 weeks, and now what do we do? We've got to have all those things kind of planned up before we get to an issue with that. So I think just the case for using a realtor has never been stronger than it is right now because of all of these extra things that we deal with. And alongside of that, we all have different issues that we're seeing with the municipalities. There's different requirements. We all go through the home inspection processes. It's not easy to sell a property. It's definitely not like it was 20 some years ago when I got my license. It was, let's sign a contract and all right, see you in 60 days at settlement, get your mortgage and then we're all done. It's far different than where it is right now. But from folks that I'm talking to across the state, they're just seeing the same issues with just low inventory and just high buyer demand. And, I don't really know what's going to stop that, to be honest with you. I don't really see it. I don't see it stopping anytime soon, because I think that, maybe as we can all see, there's many buyers out there that are more educated and kind of have their ducks in order, maybe more so now than they ever had, because, and I see this with certain younger individuals that I'm working with, where they watched mom and dad or a family member go through the recession and maybe have to go through a short sale or loan modification or something like that, where they don't want to get into a situation like that again. And I think many younger folks, were paying attention during a lot of those periods there. So I think that, we're just going to kind of continue to see where everything goes. I think the interest rates are going to stay lower. You're going to still going to see more of our goods and services continue to increase there with the inflation that we're kind of seeing at the moment. But I think as Lawrence Unit said, the more houses that can be produced and continue to be built and things that come up, and more people that feel more comfortable with the economy and their job situations. I think that's a huge thing right now too, because many companies are figuring out where they're going and their work staffing and how that all looks now coming closer to the end of the year and whether they can move. I have a lot of friends that have moved from New York City and moved from closer into Jersey there, that they don't have to be in the city 5 days a week anymore. So some of them moving into Pennsylvania, they see different benefits from that. Conversely, some of my friends have also moved up into New York because they found other places that they may not have been able to afford it 5 years ago at the same time. So I think it works both ways. I think it's just making life moves are kind of being able to be planned out a little bit better right now. So hopefully with some of that, maybe we see the inventory kind of come up a little bit. That's at least my hope.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what trends do you see in our future in our industry? Do you see anything going on?
I think we're still going to see that low, at least for the next 6-8 months. I still see these interest rates staying lower, and I still see our inventory being tight. I think it's just all of us that are boots on the ground. We really have to have our buyers ready and prepared, and have our sellers in the same instance, have them, as well educated on what's about to happen next, as much as possible right now. But I think the need for using a realtor has never been greater than it is right now.
I was checking my emails this morning, and I quickly saw something from PAR just listed, and it was about the home builders and the confidence and bringing new inventory on. So, the starts are great, but it could take a year to build the house, depending on supply, if they can get the supplies, and not just the supplies, but the labor, getting people just to do the work. And I think that's affecting also any homeowners who are preparing their house for this spring. They don't want to have it on the market during the holidays. They want to wait until after the first of the year. So we're advising our clients, start securing somebody now, because, to get any kind of work done or any kind of material, you're looking at 6 months out. Sometimes they won't even quote you for a price. They'll wait and say, you know what, we're not going to quote you a price 2 weeks before, we start doing the work. So.
Yeah, I must be out of my mind, because my wife and I are starting our kitchen renovation right now. And we ordered our appliances 2 months ago, and they said that we're probably lucky if we have them by January.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy. Yet, I mean, luckily you're seeing some of the lumber prices that did come down a little bit,
Yeah.
but they're still far ahead of where they were from 2 years ago. I mean, it's incredible to see where you're at. Just doing a simple project is not simple or cheap anymore.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
We're working on our bathroom. We don't even, we have to do it, but we fix the repair. But, trying to get cabinets or a bathtub is like, yeah, you might get it in January or February. We're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
We'll deal with it. But
yeah, it's incredible. And I think we were, we have to do something. And I know that one of the things that was part of the strategic planning process as well was also continuing to build relationships with the home builders group, with the mortgage bankers, with land title, with all of these different ancillary groups that do affect, and we do have synergy with, alongside of NAREB and some of our other groups that we can have some impacts on, I think, as realtors, and maybe create more synergies and create more partnerships and see where we can take these relationships in the future. I think that those are very, very important. And, I know that the builders are definitely, their hands are tied in a lot of these things because of the regulations that they're under. And, to get something shovel ready just takes so long, especially if you're doing a larger development. You're at the mercy of the municipality for them to get your plans approved. And then when they do get them approved, they're also going to hand you 10 more things to do along with that. So it's not cheap, and it's not efficient time, just as far as it goes. And I know I'm seeing this also just in the city zoning office. I mean, we're just seeing different delays there. I think these are things where our municipalities are just a little overwhelmed in certain instances here. Even when you have an office that was an office, now that it's going to be another office, they're still making you go through zoning because they need more time to get you approved. So it's just something that I think we're all dealing with. It's just the new impacts of what the business is doing for us.
Yeah, and Philadelphia, like you talk about counties and municipalities, Philadelphia is its county all on its own. So we have, the LNI, which is huge, where, you talk about red tape and trying to get something done. It's, I think they're doing a better job, but anyway, it's big and it's cumbersome. And again, going back to RPAC, it's staying on top of any of the changes that come out of city council and how it affects real estate, because there's always something on the table that's real estate related and a money grab. So we're always on top of that. Our government affairs group is really good. So
I agree. And I think there's never been a more important time for our local associations. I know I've said this on a few other local calls and with local presidents and even the AEs. Our staffs from across the state. And our leadership teams have never worked harder than they have over the last 18 months. I mean, we just,
Right.
just the boots on the grounds and everything that your government affairs program has to be aware of at the local level is huge. And if we're not there, I mean, we are the first line of defense for our industry, and that's us. I mean, we're all volunteers. You know, we are the first line of defense for where our industry is going to go. So I think the more impact that your folks on the call and in your association can have, the better that we all are going to be. Absolutely.
All right, Chris, thank you so much. But before I go, I want to acknowledge Al Perry. I think Al has a couple words to say. Al?
Oh, throw me in at the end. I just want to I just wanted to razz Raad there a little bit if I could. Throw him some curveballs. So how are you? Thanks for joining us, Chris.
Absolutely.
I had raised my hand only when you were speaking on RPAC. I'm going to be participating this afternoon with the GPAR folks on their phone-a-thon. So RPAC phone-a-thon this week and a couple weeks. So if any of you see my number on your caller ID, please answer it this afternoon. I love, whenever I talk about RPAC, I actually quote Matt Braden, who I see just turned his camera on there. It's our CEO, Matt. I love what he says. You know, everybody wants to advance things, but no one really wants to know. Everyone wants to eat the sausage, I think you say, Matt, but no one wants to know how the sausage is made. And I love that quote. I don't think I've ever heard it before I heard it from Matt. And RPAC issues, you know, if I look at last year during our when we were fighting the pandemic piece with us reopening our industry, it took a bill advancing through the House, getting through the Senate, getting bipartisan support, trying to keep that bill without all the other crap people want to throw onto bills, getting it out of committee, doing all this stuff that happens. Like we talked about the first time Homebuyer savings account, it seems like, oh, why wouldn't they just pass that? Well, there's a process by which it has to go through, and things get added onto that process sometimes, and then things play the partisan piece that people got to play sometimes. So getting things advanced isn't always easy, and having those RPAC dollars and knowing which legislators help us advance things, help us get through stuff. And this isn't about, you know, which side of the aisle. It's just about who's gonna help champion these realtor initiatives, these housing initiatives, these quality of life initiatives that we're gonna be fighting for. We know who those realtor champions are, and they're on both sides of the aisle. They're not independent. Well, I shouldn't say they're not. There's some independents involved there too, but you know, help us help the industry by throwing $99 RPAC's way. $99 puts you on a $99 club. It's a big deal to be there. It gives us a stake in the game, and it puts you on the. Once I gave $99 as a realtor, I never looked back because I was tuned into everything RPAC did, and I realized how far that $99 went. So anyone, I think we got 30 some people on here. If you could find your way to giving $99 to RPAC, I'd be greatly appreciative. Let's keep advancing these issues. You don't have to look at the sausage; you just have to enjoy it. Give the $99, enjoy the sausage, and let's make this phone-a-thon a great one.
Yeah. And I'll just piggyback on Al's words there. I mean, we didn't not only got that through committee and through the Senate and through the House, that happened in 2 weeks. So for a bill to get fast-tracked like that,
shit never happens in 2 weeks. Right.
Nothing happens.
It doesn't happen in 2 weeks.
No.
And then, by the way, that's when the mayor. I mean, I'm the mayor. I'm so used to local politics here, but that's when the governor signed it. It didn't sign the bill, but the governor ended up advancing and opening our industry up. But it wasn't until he saw the pressure of bipartisan support of that bill that was going to pass. I mean, when the ayes were going to be counted at the end, it was going to pass. So it was either going to pass with enough to override a veto for him to be veto proof, and he saw the writing on the wall. And so what's he do? He comes out, has a press conference, and says realtors are we're going to open them back up. So the bill never even passed. So ironically, it doesn't even look like a win from the outside looking in. Doesn't say, hey, that, you know, it ended up dying on the vine, but we didn't need it anymore. The vehicle was used. It became effective. We got open, and the rest, you know, we all had, at least most people had good years last year. So kudos to Chris and his team, and Bill Festa, who was our president last year, for helping push that in and get it moved.
Yeah. You guys have a great leadership team here. I can't speak highly enough. Bill Festa will be a friend of mine for the rest of my life. And I know if there's anyone, my car breaks down anywhere in the state, if I called Bill Festa, he would probably come pick me up. And Al, I feel the same way. I'm excited for 2023 when Al's president of PAR. And I just think you guys just have a solid group here. Matt, it's been great working with you and Stephanie. You've done a tremendous service to your association over the last 2 years. So you really should be commended for everything that you've done as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Chris. And thank you for coming and joining us for coffee. Have a wonderful rest of your year. And next year you'll be past president. So
that's right. And if I can just finish with this, I see there's a few others that just popped the screens on. If anybody has anything that you think I should know, or different, different initiatives or something that you'd like me to hear, feel free to get in contact with Matt or Al. Please reach out to me. I'm always accessible with everything. I like hearing different ideas. And that's actually how I feel like I missed out on 8 months of not being able to travel. But during the times before that, I had a lot of different brokers' numbers from across the state. And I would just call them out of the blue while I'm driving around and just say, what are things are you seeing? Are we doing okay? What about this? And I heard some, pretty overwhelming positivity for the most part from many brokers from around the state. So please don't be afraid to drop me a line, shoot me a Facebook request or LinkedIn or, Instagram or heck, even TikTok, I guess, whatever. But, like I said, I think the leadership team is very accessible though. And I think we want to know what you're thinking and what issues we should be concerned about, because as I said, we're all boots on the ground individuals as well. And this is the only way we're going to get better and stronger.
Yeah, great way to end the coffee talk. Yeah, we're members too. The leadership, we're there, and like you said, we're boots on the ground, and we can only do what we know, and the more we know, the better we can, help our members. So thank you again, and I hope to see you real soon.
Definitely.
Matt, it's all yours.
All right, great job, Stephanie. Good to connect with you, Chris, as well. Al, Perry, awesome to have you chiming in. We'll see you in a little bit. And with that, everybody have a great Monday. Don't forget Thursday, scary home inspection stories. Build there. It's always a rock solid presentation. We hope to see you there. And with that, have a great day. Take care, everyone.